Stephen A. Smith knows what's about to happen. And now
of
he's in
course.
full rear end kiss mode. All the
Damn.
bravado's gone. The chairman, the boss, Jimmy Pitaro.
Stephen A.,
And
I
I
got
can
my
tell
money.
you these things because Jimmy Pitaro gave me permission to. Toby be good Negro
Nah, not
for
like that, man.
ESPN and Jimmy Pitaro. Stephen A., I'm back in line. I got my $100 million contract, my $20 million a year. Jimmy Pitaro, tell me what to do, boss man. Stephen A. Smith is very happy with what's happening to Shannon Sharpe.
Jason Whitlock goes off on Stephen A. Smith for turning his back on Shannon Sharpe. Check out what he had to say, and then I'll come back with my comments.
And Stephen A. Smith starting the early process of kissing the butt of Jimmy Pitaro is like,
Damn.
Stephen A. Smith is a little bit scared that this is a bad look for him, and Stephen A. Smith has already admitted he's went to Diddy parties, and Stephen A. Smith is probably
Nah.
cutting checks.
Impossible.
I mean, he probably ain't got Shannon Sharpe's problem, but who knows? These guys, birds of a feather, flock together. Anybody that would
Stephen A.
hire and vouch for, hey, let's bring Shannon Sharpe over here. Let me bury my head in the sand and pretend like I'd never heard any of these stories about the problems Shannon Sharpe has had with women. Let's play SOT number 2.
I can tell you, I also spoke to co-chairman of Disney, the boss, Jimmy Pitaro, who made it very, very clear we are taking this matter very seriously, and we are looking into this very, very closely. And once we gather as many facts as we possibly can, we will go from there. And that is all he said. And I can mention his name because I received his permission.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, speak
say
up for
that.
me.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means. Yes, you do.
Yeah, Stephen A. Smith knew what was going on with Shannon Sharpe. He talked to the bosses. He knew that the writing was on the wall. And coincidentally, after this video that he made, Shannon Sharpe said he's going to step away from ESPN. So he knew the conversations he was having with the bosses. Shannon knew that this couldn't continue on. I'm surprised they allowed him to step away. Normally, they'll let you know, we're going to go ahead and send you home until we can figure things out. But stepping away for Shannon pretty much is, let's try to negotiate a buyout so you can get some money and we can save some money and you can go on about your business and try to handle this situation. But Stephen A. was put in a position, he want to support Shannon, but he know he can't overtalk his bosses. Whatever they say goes, and they gave you $100 million. Hey, you got to be a good employee and do what they say and go ahead and make this video on our behalf.
Yes, you do. And that's why you're backpedaling.
Damn.
ESPN's going to gather as many facts as they can. News outlets are going to start reporting as many facts as they can.
Which they have.
And a
Allegedly.
doo-doo storm is about to erupt and sweep Shannon Sharpe out. Shannon Sharpe appears on First Take on Mondays and Tuesdays. That's what they let him come on Tuesday and basically, in my view, do his final show. Because now he can disappear for the rest of this week without drawing attention. He's only on Mondays and Tuesdays. So he can disappear and try to spend the next 3 days perhaps trying to talk ESPN from firing him. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to do.
And Whitlock was right. Again, this was before Shannon decided to step away and announced it. This was like a day before, so Whitlock, he's been within those offices, Fox, ESPN. He knows how these major corporations work. Whenever you kind of dirty the shield, the ESPN and Disney shield, yeah, they're either going to fire you on the spot or you step away, we assess the situation, and we try to either fire you with terms or maybe a buyout. So if you're Shannon Sharpe, you're hopeful that a buyout can happen. Even though he said he was going to return during the NFL preseason, it ain't happening. It can happen. It's just too much dirty laundry being aired out. And this was just the beginning. Imagine when the trial starts. Imagine when that video gets leaked, the 30-second clip that Shannon was talking about. He said it's supposed to be a 10-minute clip. Will more footage like that be leaked eventually? Since both sides are trying to prove that either Shannon did something and Shannon's trying to prove that he's innocent and countersue. It's going to be interesting to see if Shannon Sharpe returns during the NFL preseason in August.
When these little leaks and other stories that I believe, that I was told by journalists, are on the way.
Which they are.
I think Stephen A. Smith knows what's about to happen. And now
of
he's in
course.
full rear end kiss mode. All the bravado's gone. The chairman, the boss, Jimmy Pitaro.
Stephen A.,
And
I
I
got
can
my
tell
money.
you these things because Jimmy Pitaro gave me permission to. Toby be good Negro
Nah, not
for
like that, man.
ESPN and Jimmy Pitaro. Stephen A., I'm back in line. I got my $100 million contract, my $20 million a year. Jimmy Pitaro, tell me what to do, boss man.
Yeah, it's obvious that Stephen A. Smith was like, look, Shannon, I rock with you, but we're industry friends. We're not like real homies. So I can only stand next to you so long. Once those bosses come knocking, like, look, you better speak out because we're going to let him go. So if you want to get ahead of this storm before more reports come out or he decides to step away, go ahead and address it on your podcast because we're going to drop that hammer soon on Shannon Sharpe. So, of course, Stephen A. Smith had to backpedal. He can't go all out. Yeah, I know Jay-Z and the whole situation with him. He was more, in the forefront, letting the people know he rocks with Jay-Z. But Jay-Z doesn't work with ESPN and Disney, so he can support him a little more. But when you have a colleague like a Shannon Sharpe and you got these crazy allegations going on, oh yeah, you're going to step aside, going to let him deal what he got to deal with, and you're going to just put out some stuff. You rock with him. You hope he didn't do anything, but when the bosses say do something, you got to do what you got to do. If you're Stephen A., that $100 million ain't come out of nowhere. You know what it is. You know what he got to say.
Full-blown backpedal.
Oh, of course, it has to.
This is Stephen A. preparing for the worst, which is really the best because I think Stephen A. Is actually happy.
Why would he be?
Happy. Skip Bayless is dead at Fox Sports. Stephen A. is competing against, what is it, the facility?
No competition.
Emmanuel Acho and some other
That don't
former
even count.
NFL players. Not that I dislike them, but that show has no traction at Fox Sports. It's no threat.
You'll be
Skip
canceled
Bayless
soon.
is dead. Now he no longer needs Shannon Sharpe. He's dead. Shannon Sharpe was building a YouTube channel and a career that was going to surpass Stephen A. Smith. Shannon Sharpe was in line, the line that Stephen A. Smith wants to be in. Stephen A. Smith wants to be a late-night talk show host. Shannon Sharpe was positioning himself to be a late-night talk show host. He's more talented than Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah, Shannon Sharpe, the skies are the limits for him. Who knows what may happen after the fact, after this situation. But he was in line to possibly get a gig like that. I know he has a lot going on with Nightcap and Club Shay Shay, but he can move that stuff around if he had the opportunity to have a late night talk show. But I don't think those opportunities are going to be there, at least for now. Maybe in the future, who knows? Maybe he'll just have to make a separate platform independently and do that. But if he wanted to be on mainstream television, one of these major networks, I don't think it's going to happen with Shannon Sharpe. He dropped the ball over some young chick, got caught up in some fantasy land, and he really cost himself the bag and a huge opportunity to do greater things.
Stephen A. Smith is very happy with what's happening to Shannon Sharpe. You're not going to hear that anyplace else. And you'll be upset, and I know you've been programmed and brainwashed. Whitlock, he's terrible. He's the worst person in the world. Whitlock is trying to keep you ahead of the conversation. No different. Hey, 2 years ago, Stephen A. Smith's running for president. He's got this fake book out here.
Damn, not the
Trying
book.
to keep you ahead of the conversation. He's a fraud and a plant. His background story, his college career, it's all a fraud and a plant. And I tried to tell you, like, hey, be careful with Shannon Sharpe, man. No discipline.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Shannon Sharpe really got caught up like this after covering all these athletes, covering these stories on ESPN, Undisputed, FS1, and his own platforms. You would think he would be mindful that, yeah, you're dealing with certain individuals, young or old. You still got to be mindful that you could be recorded, you can be finessed. He doesn't know social media like that, but you're still covering these stories on mainstream and independent platforms. So for Shannon to get caught up like this, it's a terrible look. He's not a victim. He got to be accountable. Yeah, you can say that Tony Busby is targeting black people, but you targeted yourself by putting yourself in this situation. Shannon Sharpe dropped the ball.
No sexual control, no emotional control.
Yeah, he ain't got no control, man.
When you 56 and you ripped up like the Incredible Hulk, there's conversations going on about you in the gym. What's he doing? What's he taking to look like that? Why does he want
You on
to
that
look
TRT?
like that? It puts you on the cover of a magazine, but not the most healthy thing. There's a middle ground in there. But and then people start, hey, what's he taking? And maybe that's why. And I want y'all to dig up this clip and place the clip of Shannon Sharpe at that Lakers game, nearly getting in a fight. He's there with his side piece, or I'm sorry, stylist,
Nah, don't do
Hollywood,
that,
whatever,
man.
and he nearly gets in a fight with the Memphis Grizzlies, I believe.
Yeah, Shannon Sharpe lost control in that situation, trying to defend LeBron, trying to defend his Lakers, and Tony Busby and their legal team. They're going to use all those instances and make it seem like he's that angry black guy. He's that angry person that's capable of choking an individual, that's capable of doing things in the bedroom that are crazy, that are in violation. They're just going to try to, paint all that together and make a masterpiece in court during this lawsuit. So if you're Shannon Sharpe, everything that you did previously is going to be held against you, especially in this lawsuit. She turned down $10 million. They're going for 25. So if you're Shannon, you don't want to lose that money. You're going to have to file bankruptcy, go on a payment plan for life. You're 56 years old, so you can't take a 10, 20, $30 million loss in a lawsuit. And then there's going to be more people that are going to be after your money because you got situations to where they're head scratching. Can they make it look like a certain way if you're Shannon? So bad look, bro.
That's a lack of emotional control. That's someone easily triggered. That's someone, and again, this is why he was willing to offer up a $10 million settlement. Because when this pretty young thing, white girl says, hey, he snapped and tried to strangle me.
Damn.
And she's got him on tape. They played that audio of him talking about strangling her. It's like, that's someone with not much emotional control. Didn't we just see him on the sidelines of Lakers losing himself, about to get in a fight with these young NBA players? These are obvious red flags.
Exactly. So not saying that he's guilty of anything, but if you're a lawyer, if you're Tony Busby, one of the best out there, minus the whole Jay-Z thing, but he's known for doing this. He's known, and any attorney that's after multi-million dollars and a huge figure like Shannon, yeah, they're going to use instances like the Grizzlies, altercation, things he may have said, even playing around on nightcap, saying that, if he got to handle a situation, he got to handle it. So Shannon Sharpe, they're going to gather a lot of evidence and make it look like a certain way. Shannon effed up big time.
Obvious. And Stephen A. and ESPN ran by those obvious red flags. These people, Jimmy Pitaro, Stephen A., these people are all the same age as me. They should have as much discernment as me. But Disney, under Bob Iger, they seem to want, particularly black men, that have no emotional control, easily triggered, snap at the drop of a hat, allegations against them. Those Negroes are easier to control, to put the puppet strings on, make them play the buffoon and the clown, feminize them, put makeup on them that looks feminine.
I don't know about all that, but it makes sense. Just think about all the situations that ESPN First Take had, having random beefs, having disagreements, having Stephen A. Smith go off on LeBron James on the air, and then, promoting that type of stuff. So, of course, they want people to go back and forth. It's good for ratings, but it could come back to bite you. In this Shannon Sharpe situation, it's just going to make the whole company look bad. What are you putting out there? What are you trying to promote? That's something to think about.
Put them in dresses. Put them in the tightest clothes on the planet. So let's play SOT number 3. Stephen A. Smith pretending like he hopes everything goes well and goes away for Shannon Sharpe.
In my perfect world, this equates to Jay-Z, where the case is ultimately dropped and Shannon is allowed to continue on First Take and continue to thrive and shine. And not just that, and have an illustrious career in the podcast stratosphere, doing Nightcap with Chad Ochocinco, doing Club Shay Shay, and ultimately gets this $100 million deal that he was all over the news about to sign just a couple of days before this report came out. In my perfect world, he moves on.
Yeah, moves on out of ESPN.
And somehow, some way, we find this all to be false. But it doesn't seem like that's the way things are about to go down, considering who Mr. Busby is.
Yeah, Stephen A., I know you're in the fantasy land right now. I played into it as well when you first made this video and I reacted earlier. I was hoping, things can go well for Shannon. He can get back on TV if he can prove his innocence and make it look like the Jay-Z situation and destroy Tony Busby. But we know that's not going to happen only because Jay-Z isn't working for ESPN, so it doesn't really matter what happens with them. But if you're working for an employer and then you got all that audio and possible video footage out there and text messages, Jay-Z didn't have that in his situation. You just had a bogus claim made against him by some random accuser. With Shannon Sharpe, it's completely different. There's a person out there that's alleging a situation. There's audio, possible video, text messages, choking and all that crazy stuff. So it's not going to end like Jay-Z. Yeah, he may be innocent, but still, Disney and ESPN, they want no parts of that. You made the company look bad.
Did you hear that? In my perfect world,
Ain't happening.
the key word here is this all goes away and the case is dropped and he continues to appear on First Take, or he continues to come on First Take. And so Stephen A. has let it slip. Unless these charges are dropped, ain't no more Shannon Sharpe on First Take.
It don't matter if it's dropped, though. It's still
That's
bad.
how I heard that yesterday.
Yeah, at the end of the day, man, Shannon Sharpe is cooked. Hopefully he can prove his innocence. Hopefully he can prove that this accuser is lying, making fictitious claims. But even though he may do that, still, it doesn't matter. Only because it's just a lot of crazy content floating around with Shannon Sharpe. But as far as Stephen A. Smith turning his back on Shannon, backpedaling, he has to do what he has to do. The bosses gave you $100 million. You're not going to stand next to someone, even though you say you may support them. You don't believe they're capable of doing that. Still, there's only so close you can stand next to Shannon. You got to let it be known how you feel in a sense, but separate yourself. So even though you may have his back, you may want to support him, you're not going to be able to support him all the time in front of the camera. So Stephen A., he did what he had to do. He getting that money. I don't blame him, but it is what it is. Maybe Shannon Sharpe feels a certain way, but he doesn't have time to go back and forth with Stephen A. Smith. He got bigger fish to fry, trying to prove his innocence and not having to pay up tens of millions of dollars to this accuser. So we'll see what happens moving forward with Shannon Sharpe and this lawsuit.